How much is Leeds United worth? We're joined by football finance academic, author and broadcaster Kieran Maguire, author of The Price of Football. He hosts a podcast of the same name and teaches football finance at the University of Liverpool to discuss the economics of the greatest club in the world. Leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more Leeds content, and let's get into it. The following podcast contains some strong language and some very average opinions. Any references to actual people are wildly inaccurate. It's probably best if you don't listen at all. The Roaring Peacock Podcast. Welcome back to the Roaring Peacock Main Cast. This week we're discussing the price of Leeds United with football finance expert and author of The Price of Football, Kieran Maguire. But first, the week began with Jordan Stevens off to Bradford and Ryan Edmondson coming back to Leeds. We anticipate another loan move shortly. And there was a charitable trip to Sussex, where we participated in a fundraiser for a small provincial team. We brought a clown to entertain the kids. There was an appearance by a reality TV star, and it was all televised to bring some joy to the whole nation. The under-23s restored some pride on the pitch with a 4-1 demolition of Burnley. With a performance almost as cool as his name, Crescencio Somerville bagged a hat-trick and Sam Greenwood got the other. You can hear more about the under-23s on our new weekly youth pod. Shameless self-promotion. And Ellen Road will be used as a mass vaccination site, fueling the conspiracies that Rob Price has developed a microchip mutant DNA add-on to the vaccine to turn us all into the next Lionel Messi's. And in non-Leeds related news, it was a huge week in the United States as a collaboration between the Village People, Jamiroquai and the Manson family climbed the hill and almost brought the house down. There's talk of impeachment and jail time for Donald Trump, which explains what he was training for with all those dance moves. On a serious note, if you don't know Eugene Goodman, look him up. While in Denmark, a show aimed at 4 to 8-year-olds has come out, with the central theme revolving around the main character's enormous penis. The show's opening title boasts the character will save the world with his enormous penis, in stark contrast to this podcast, where we make the world more average with our more average-sized penises.
Speak for yourself, I'm hung like a baby wasp.
And the next steps on the mystery government coronavirus measures wheel of fortune could be only being allowed to leave the house once a day. We feel that's a bit harsh on Kiko Casilla, who can't catch anything anyway.
I've missed this. We can only leave the house once a day.
That's the rumour.
I've heard it could be once a week.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, as long as Kiko's once a week outing isn't for Leeds United. That was your weekly roundup. My name's Adonis. You know me as the Alex on Twitter. It's a very good hello from me. And joining us to discuss all of this and more is Ross Bell, our man on the post.
Hello, mate.
And our friendly canvas seller, Riot Badger.
It's just getting more and more confused. Hello. Our friendly dickhead?
Alex is here.
He's just
and the first person who actually knows anything what he's talking about to appear on this podcast, Kieran Maguire.
Thanks for the invite, guys. I'm looking forward to this. It's certainly going to be different.
Yeah, you got a taste of what it's like just from that opening monologue.
Yes.
So before we get into the price of Leeds United, we can just maybe talk about that week and how was it and go around the circle. Alex, you look prepared.
It's a lovely week to be a Leeds fan, isn't it? You know, getting smashed by a League Two team, like literally smashed by a League Two team, then finding out that our fans have been racially abusing Gabi Agbonlahor, can't say his name, on Twitter. You know, it's such a lovely time to be alive. There's a new variant of the coronavirus found in Japan from Brazil, which is going to kill us all. It takes 6 weeks to develop a vaccine, and it's going to be killing us by 4 weeks and 2 days. So I'm particularly chipper today. That's my week.
Ross?
Yeah. I mean, along the lines of Alex there, but I wonder if the price of Leeds United has gone down after yesterday, and especially if the price of our goalkeeper, if we could get anything for him at all, would be lovely. How about you,
Kieran?
Well, if you saw Jason Steele try to save a cross yesterday, we might have a swap for you.
Yeah.
Is he racist?
He had some. He had some.
I don't know if you saw Sunderland Till I Die. He was in that. He didn't cover himself with glory in that. So
sounds perfect.
He's a brilliant penalty taker. So if for anybody playing against Manchester United, I think he'd be the ideal goalkeeper. I think he should be moved around on a week by week basis.
The thing is, keepers only take penalties when they're in the cup, so it'd be useless for us because we're never in any cups. So
He had some fantastic facial expressions, did Mr. Steele. It was very WWF.
How was your week, Adonis? How was it? Enjoyed it?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah, it was okay. I was extremely angry about my football team playing terribly. And then I got over it pretty quick. Yeah. I drew Kiko Casilla as a clown. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Which was a cathartic experience.
and then
felt much less angry afterwards.
And then you found out there's a mural in Leeds that's just the words "me and you" over and over, and it just all collapsed again.
That did me. I don't know why. That just knocked me out this morning. It was like, we've got a reason for you to smile. We've done this stunning artwork. It's taken us a year to do, and it's just white text on black background. You and me and you. And that's it.
Yeah, my daughter could have done that.
To me, that's not artwork. That doesn't take a year to do, and nobody should be getting paid for it. And I was a grumpy old man this morning.
It's proper old man shouts at cloud this morning.
Yes, that was me. So apologies to the artists.
They're not listening.
Okay, well, that was a fantastic introduction. So let's move swiftly on as fast as we can to the price of Leeds United. I guess maybe just opening statement, Kieran?
If you're trying to value Leeds United as a football club, there's a variety of ways of doing it. We could look to see how much Radrizzani played. We could look to see how much San Francisco 49ers paid for their 9.9% stakes. But I think that's all relevant because that's all history. I think you've got to try to value Leeds United as a club going forwards with an assumption they're going to remain in the Premier League. And given that Burnley were effectively valued at £200 million last week when they were taken over by ALK, and Mike Ashley has agreed a fee of £300 million for Newcastle United, although he can't force through that deal at present. He's in dispute with the Premier League. I think Leeds would have to be placed somewhere in between those two, and closer to the Newcastle value than that of Burnley Football Club. So that's where we would start. What are the main drivers of value? It's the ability of the club to generate revenue. Leeds is very good at generating matchday revenue. We know that all the matches are going to be sold out. Can you sell more of those out to hospitality? Yeah, and we've got to ignore COVID. We've got to assume that we're coming out of COVID. The broadcast deal, which was worth in 2019, Leeds made £9.1 million from TV. In 2020-21, that's going to be somewhere in the region of 105 to 110 million pounds, and then you've got your final source of income, which is commercial. Leeds have doubled their commercial income since 2016, and I think there's scope to grow that again. So there's lots of positives, which would get me to my gut reaction value in the present market around about 275 to 280 million, which would be a very good profit for the owner should he desire to sell. But I think he would be foolish to sell at present.
Yeah. I reckon so.
Where's the how high can we go? What do we have to? What kind of things increase the value? And I mean, there's talk of a 60,000 seater Ellen Road, so an expansion on what we've got at the moment, which is 39,000. Assuming that there's any of us left to go to football grounds after this pandemic. Yeah, I presume it's also affected by performance on the pitch and how we do in the transfer windows and things like that.
The markets tend to ignore transfer markets unless you get yourself a reputation as a development and sale club. So I think Liverpool have achieved that. If you take a look at what they've done, they've sold Suarez, Sterling, Coutinho, players of those reputations for big prices. Leeds are not at present what you would call a selling club. And I would say that they need to develop before they move on to that stage where they can start to use players as commodities, which will generate guaranteed sums of money from year to year. You mentioned the stadium. If we take a look at the match day income, £18 million in 2019. Now, Spurs had the pandemic not hit last season, Spurs would have gone from 35 million that they were generating at the old White Hart Lane to somewhere close to 120 in the new stadium. So a new stadium with 60,000 capacity it is something that I think you have to have, because if Leeds want to break through, and it's a really tough glass ceiling to break through, then match day income is an issue, because Manchester United are over 100 million, Arsenal are just short of 100 million, Liverpool are around about 80, and they're planning to expand Anfield as well. So you've got a big gap. You can't keep losing money to enhance the value of a club by moving up the table because of financial fair play. Financial fair play is there to prevent Leeds United becoming the next Manchester City, from becoming the next Chelsea. That's the
specifically just Leeds United. That's the whole document.
Well, Leeds United, Aston Villa,
I knew it.
Newcastle, Wolves, Everton. I think there's probably 5 or 6 clubs that have ambitions, and I would include Leeds within those. So financial fair play is designed to prevent the present six chasing 4 places. Or I think we can probably rule Arsenal out to a certain extent. So you've got 5 clubs chasing 4 places, and they're very worried. I mean, the financial fair play, the rules were sort of tightened to a certain extent, and the way that money's distributed in the Premier League was changed because Leicester was a real fly in the ointment. Leicester winning the Premier League in 2016, because they took away, it wasn't the fact that they won the Premier League, they took away one of the Champions League players that those big clubs, and I use big not because they are big, but that's it's a simplistic term. It's because those clubs regard Champions League places as their own. Now, so in order for Leeds to progress, 2 things. First of all, you need to increase your existing income streams, and secondly, you need to break into the Champions League. The Champions League is worth realistically a minimum of 35 to 40 million pounds, and if you get as far as the final, we're talking well over 100. And if you are Liverpool, if you are Manchester City, then you've got a guaranteed 100 million pounds coming in each year, and that makes a huge difference, because if we look at Leeds' revenue, £49 million in 2019. For 2021, again, let's assume that there is no COVID, Leeds would have been looking at 160. So if you can get an extra 100 coming from Champions League participation, then that is a game changer. But saying it's easy, getting in there is really tough, as you've probably experienced this season. Everybody's, and I'm speaking as a neutral, as a non-Leeds fan, everybody's been impressed with the quality of football, but you're still, 11th, 12th, and getting up past Wolves, Everton, clubs of that nature, Leicester, that I think that's your next challenge.
Conquering that kind of the next kind of, not the next Leicester, but to compete regularly with Everton, maybe Wolves, to get to be in that position where you can maybe one season have a real push for the Champions League, definitely. Yeah,
or getting into the Europa League. That would be a hell of an achievement. Although I was talking to somebody senior at Burnley a couple of years ago, and he said getting into getting to the Europa League. It was an incredible achievement for Burnley Football Club, but it was actually bad news because Sean Dyche likes to drill his players. You play on Saturday or Sunday, players come into training on a Monday, and they are drilling for the match for the following weekend. You're getting themselves organised. If you're playing in the Europa League and you've got a Thursday night match, you might train on a Monday, have a bit of a rest day Tuesday, fly out Wednesday, play the match Thursday, get back Friday morning, give the players Friday off, and then you're drilling on a Saturday for a match on a Sunday. And I would imagine for a manager such as Bielsa, for whom I think getting drills across to players is such an important thing, that's when you need a bigger squad. And that's something to bear in mind getting into the Europa League.
No, it's a hill to climb for us, isn't it? That, I mean, we've got we've got to compete on the pitch, but we've also got to compete commercially. And the whole idea of that badge, the whole Gaviscon badge, was an idea for us to compete commercially as well, and that is going to be difficult for a fan base that are so stuck in traditionalism. And I know people who don't want to demolish the West Stand. It's like, that's what makes Ellen Road. But if we want to be competing at the upper echelons of this league, we need to be moving forward. I really don't want us to have a cookie cutter like Riverside Stadium. But, we do need more seats.
I wonder, Kieran, if you could tell us a little bit about the 49ers and their part financially in the club and where you think they'll move forward in the future.
I think that they see Leeds United Football Club as a brand. It's a horrible word because we're football fans, but as a brand which is perhaps undervalued. They are aware that it does have history and heritage, and they see that in value. They know that it's got a very committed fan base. Can that fan base be expanded away from the domestic scene, more into the international scene? And this was actually a question I was asked, I think it was on Monday on the podcast I do. Why are we not seeing Leeds United shirts in sports stores in Australia, in America, and so on? And part of the problem is that they're not a guarantee. With the Barcelona shirt, with the Manchester United shirt, with the PSG shirt, with Neymar on the back, with the Brazilian shirt, you've got guaranteed sales. If Leeds have a lean 2 or 3 months, and you're a retailer, the last thing you want is, remember, it's not a case of just having half a dozen shirts, because you need one in small, one in medium, one in large, one in extra. You need to keep a certain number of shirts, and they're all competing for space with not only other. I'll use the word soccer because I teach in the States, and when I talk about football in the States, it gets confusing. But you're competing not only with other soccer shirts, you are competing with other sports franchises. Leeds at present is not a big enough brand to fill those spaces in the overseas shirts area. And that's the same. If you go into JD Sports, if you go into other sports stores here in the UK, and I think we can probably just about remember being able to do that. Then how many American NFL shirts were actually available to buy? So the amount of space given to football in other countries is going to be smaller, because they'll have their domestic shirts, then they will have a couple of international shirts, and then you're competing against Bayern, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Liverpool, and PSG. That's the market you've got to try to break into. And the Adidas and Nike, they've got very good distribution networks. Leeds really isn't on the radar for the international market yet. So to achieve that, I think you've got to achieve success on the pitch. Winning a cup, getting into the Europa League, winning the Europa League, things of that nature will push you up further. Leicester did not sell a huge number of shirts, apart from in Thailand when they won the Premier League in 2016. And remember, they also reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League in 2017.
So can we move on to transfers now then? So I'm just wondering, we had a quite a big summer transfer window, but apparently not that much left the club immediately, so it's going to be paid off in installments. Can you tell us a little bit about the transfer window, how you think we did, and of course, as a Brighton fan, how you felt about being our big rivals and not selling Ben White to us? You prick.
Well, if we deal with the first thing, in terms of transfer budgets, there's
sorry, Kieran.
It's okay. There's sort of two issues. First of all, as you've clearly found, the prices are more expensive. If you take a look at Leeds, they spent £7 million in 2017, £28 million 2018, £16 million in 2019. So you're in that market, and all of a sudden you're in a new market. Players, spending £5 or £6 million on a player in the Championship is puts you in the top third. In terms of deals. A £5 million signing in the Premier League, as you've no doubt found out, it doesn't register on the radar.
Yeah.
There's two things. Is there a financial fair play issue to worry about? And in my view, looking at the way that financial fair play works in the Premier League, is that you're allowed to lose £15 million over a 3-year period, and then the owner can top that up by £30 million a year. So Leeds did lose money in 2018, did lose money in 2019, will have lost money in 2020, but the rules have been relaxed a bit. So is there scope to spend money in the January window? Yes, there is. There is certainly wiggle room. Is there the cash to do so? This will come down to the owner's own wealth and also the willingness of other investors, such as the San Francisco 49ers, to put money in if they want to increase the number of shares that the club has. Now, I don't think that SF49 will be hugely keen to do so because of the level of cutbacks in the States. And from their perspective, from a public relations point of view, if they are seen spending money on their UK investment and people are having to take pay cuts, jobs are being lost back in San Fran, can you imagine that it's going to go down like a lead balloon? Yeah. So until we get at the end of the pandemic, I think that there'll be moderate spending, and there certainly is scope for that. They didn't go and blow the budget the way that Villa did when they were promoted, spending was it £40 million on Wesley, and it was a bit of a scattergun approach. Some worked, some didn't work. So Leeds have got money in reserve, and therefore it's now up to the manager to make those decisions along with his coaching staff.
I'd assume not many deals are done up front almost. Like the cash is probably spread out years into the future. I know we pay, I think, £4 million a year for held cost or something like that. I think I'd imagine that's how most deals are done these days.
Yes, yeah. So because of the nature of football these days that we're talking multi-million, the only time when an instalment approach is not applied is where a club has a player whom they don't want to sell. And therefore that they can use that as a ploy. But if you take a look at what happened with Manchester United and Harry Maguire, Leicester wanted 80 million. Manchester City had dropped out of the market by then, and they didn't particularly even want to sell at 80 million. So when Manchester United came in, Leicester said it's 80 million cash up front, and Manchester United actually wrote out that cheque for Harry Maguire. But that
perfect, huh?
Yes. But the standard approach is you might be looking at a down payment and then the rest in annual instalments. But what some clubs do, if they are the selling club, and this is what Crystal Palace did with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, was that when they sold Aaron Wan-Bissaka to Manchester United, that was in instalments, and then they sold the IOUs, which were due from Manchester United. They sold those to a bank at a discount.
Right, okay. Just to get more cash in.
Just to get more cash in, which then they could use in the market themselves. So it all starts to get a bit messy. But I don't see Leeds having an issue in terms of cash.
How were, in terms of when we were in the Championship, we were running just underneath the 100% wages to turnover. I think we were right on the limit. How it's surely not sustainable for clubs to be running at like 190. Is it 190 something? Reading are at, and
Reading was 226, and that
how is that
was
sustainable?
It's not sustainable, and it was quite an achievement. I mean, they stole they stole Harry Redknapp's crown because he'd achieved the record when he was manager of Birmingham, just before he went in to become king of the jungle. So, all these people were saying what a lovely guy was. And I'm looking at the way he'd left Birmingham financially, saying, well, I think there's more to this than meet the eye. The Championship as a division is not sustainable unless you have owners who are willing to underwrite the losses of clubs.
Is that what Radrazani did?
Yeah. So
it was it.
Yeah. So if we take a look at 2019, Leeds lost 21 million, and that was effectively underwritten by Radrazani, who took the view that it was a gamble worth taking in terms of trying to get promoted. Those losses of 21 million, I would expect them to be doubled in 2020, because by the time you look at the impact of COVID, and then you combine that with promotion bonuses and the costs of upgrading. You will have seen that the floodlights at Ellen Road, they have to now be HD compliant. The advertising hoardings around the side of the ground, they have to be Premier League standard for HD cameras as well. Because when a match is being broadcast, you might be looking at an advert for an insurance company when you're watching the match at home on Sky or BT, but you might have people in Indonesia who are looking at a local telecoms advert which is coming through from exactly those same advertising hoardings. So all of that costs more money. So Leeds, I would anticipate Leeds losses in 2019-20 to be quite eye-watering, somewhere closer to 40 million than 20.
I think I'd heard on a podcast that Leeds were the furthest behind in terms of where they needed to be for the Premier League level in terms of skies and that sort of stuff than any team that ever come up. Is that just because they've been so poorly run under Ken Bates and GFH and Massimo Cellino and countless others?
Yeah, I think when Leeds were effectively a pass-the-parcel toxic financial asset, and under those circumstances, the person who is holding the parcel is not going to be spending money on infrastructure projects. So Leeds were really let down during that period, and therefore they've had to go and play catch up as a result of being promoted to the Premier League. But those investments will pay off in due course. The longer you stay there, then the more money will be reaped as a result of that investment.
Angus was saying that he asked Andrea to write a check for £1.5 million every month to stave off the debts. I'm just wondering though about wages. Are you aware of footballleaguefc.com, Kieran? They have published wages of various different clubs, and they've published wages for Leeds United. Who knows if it's correct or not? But maybe you could shed some light on it. So Rodrigo is apparently on £105,000 a week. In fact, the 4 new signings, Rafinha is on 63, Robin Koch on 65, and Llorente on £81,000 a week. So that was a significant step up from the highest earners in the Championship, which was Patrick Bamford on 42.5, and Kiko Casilla, who's on 40,000.
And Gaetano Berardi, who's on 4 packets of quavers a night.
Berardi's on 12,500.
Oh, mate, I could do with some of that.
Yeah.
Probably Jamie Shackleton's on 2.5. You got Pascal Stroke, who's been almost the mainstay in the first team, on 2.5 this season as well. Matthias Klick, probably the player who's played the most games, is on 12,500. So Does that sound about right to you? It's just there's no way to verify this source at all.
No, you can't verify it. It's a bit like transfer market. If you repeat a lie enough times, then it becomes a truth, and that's the danger with things of this nature. I would take them with large doses of salt. I mean, I teach football agents and various other people. In fact, on Wednesday, I'm teaching for the League Managers Association, so I'm teaching managers. And when you talk to these people, they say, "Well, all of these stories in the press." Be very cautious, because if an agent phones up, if a journalist phones up an agent and says, "What's your player on?" the agent is going to go and say something which is going to be higher than he's actually on, because he's always looking at the next deal. And then, of course, so if you've got a player who's on 20 grand a week, the agent would say, "Oh, he's on 35." So therefore, it goes into the press at 35, and that's used as a benchmark for when the agent is next negotiating a contract. So unfortunately, I can only cry one word when with Football League or footballtransfer.co.uk, whatever it's called, and that word is bullshit. It's simply not the case. That they don't have access to wages records, and it's rumor and counter rumor. And scouring the internet and looking at Twitter, and as we've seen, Twitter isn't the most reliable place in the world. It's got more reliable since Donald Trump departed, but but even so, you got to take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. Just quickly as well, you didn't get back to us on the Ben White,
yes,
the free Ben White fiasco. I do regret calling you a prick. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You're obviously a very nice man.
I guess from our point of view, we just found it. We were a bit confused. While the hostility from Leeds fans.
Sorry. Well,
because we're not
I know we've been out of the Premier League.
There's never been anything between the clubs. And I know when Graham Potter came in, the decision was: is Ben? He'd just come out he had a successful season at Newport, a successful season at Peterborough. Potter had come in, and the question was: does he bring him into the first team squad, or do we continue his development by moving him up to the Championship?
I think you just spent 18. Did you sign Matthew Webster? Was it Adam Webster?
Adam Webster, yeah. So Adam Webster was out. Yeah. So he was seen as Lewis Dunk's accomplice in central defence. There were rumours of Dunk himself. Arsenal and Chelsea were both sniffing round, so they gave Dunk a new 5-year contract. And then it was really a case of, did they think that Ben White would get a lot of time on the pitch? With Shane Duffy as a centre half at the same time, and the conclusion was that they wanted Ben White to carry on his improvement as a player, and clearly he did that at Leeds. He by all accounts, and my stepson's got a Leeds season ticket holder. Is Leeds season ticket holder. So I said, what do you think of him? And I've asked other mates of mine who are Leeds fans, and the consensus was the best centre half they'd seen since Rio Ferdinand. And then of course the loan period ended, and he came back to being a Brighton player. And then Leeds were perfectly entitled to put in offers, and those offers either didn't meet the valuation that Brighton had for him, or they had decided they wanted to make him a key component of the first team squad this season. He's played the vast majority of matches. He's played well without being spectacularly good. Yeah, he's been solid, but he looks very good on the ball. I don't know whether you saw when we played Manchester United at home, but when he was up against Marcus Rashford, he was turned inside out. And he's very composed on the ball. Looking at him from a defensive perspective, if I was being hypercritical, he does go to sleep at set pieces. We've been caught out at the back post on a few occasions. Set pieces aren't your strong point in the Premier League any more than they are ours. So I think he's a player who will continue to improve. I think the club felt that if he played for us for a single season in the Premier League, then his value would be more towards the sort of the 45 to 50 million pound valuation, compared to, I think, Leeds were offering somewhere in the region of 25 to 30. So that was the viewpoint that they took.
That's fair. It's annoying, but it's fair.
I think we have the propensity as Leeds fans to take things to the extreme. So while we definitely wanted Ben White,
yeah,
I think,
and perfectly rightly so. I mean, there's no doubt denying he's a cracking player.
I'm not sure there's many other clubs that would go down to Brighton's ground and put a poster up saying "Free Ben White." I think that's taken it slightly far, but it's one of them things where we do it to make each other laugh, and everybody looking in just thinks, "Oh, that's tin pot," and Leeds of this. And we just do it to make each other laugh, and it's that escalation of he'll do the worst thing to make each other laugh.
Well, that's why
taking him into our hearts as well. That's the thing.
Yeah,
he's our hero of our promotion-winning, championship-winning team, and he had a bromance with Calvin Phillips, who is the heart of the club,
the fan on the pitch.
They still, the fan on the pitch, exactly, and they still playing video games on Twitch online together. You can listen in to their friendship. You can get an update on it. So I think it was the fact that it was breaking up the romance, and we felt that he was our player, and we felt that we'd given three very, very good offers, and then it just escalated from there. And Leeds fans, if you don't know us by now. If you don't know us by now.
I mean, he's up in the echelons of other Leeds legends such as Emile Smith-Rowe, that belong to other clubs. So, yeah.
If the situation had been reversed, and Leeds were in the Premier League, and they'd given a promising player to a club in the Championship who then was promoted. And then they came up. What would you have done under those circumstances? And you said, "Well, thanks very much." Surely it's a win-win deal. Ben White developed as a player. Leeds were promoted, and Brighton ended up with a player returning to them who was better than he was 12 months ago.
Yeah,
Leeds are better off for it. We have got two good players in replacement of what we would have paid for Ben White. It's just they're both fucking injured.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move quickly on to just touch on 2018-19 then. So you wrote some sort of essay on it, was it?
Yeah, I run the Price of Football blog, and I did a full analysis of Leeds accounts, and if you take the first letter of those of each sentence, because I'm a bit of a fucking twit. Who was that previous manager? The Scottish guy.
Oh, Steve Evans.
Yeah, if you take the first letter of the report, I think it spells Steve Evans isn't fit to lick Bielsa's arse or something like that.
Bravo.
Because it's both childish and immature. I do this for all the reports that I write because somebody was stealing them.
Right.
And writing them up. So I thought, right, well, if you do this and you go and publish this in your newspaper, whatever it is, I'm gonna call you out on this. So I've just done it as a bit of a laugh ever since. So Leeds. I think Leeds accounts in 2019 are indicative of a club that has tried to get promoted, wasn't quite successful, and that comes at a cost. So anybody that ends up in the playoffs or close to the playoffs is going to be losing substantial sums of money. I think there's positives. The fact that the money coming in has doubled since 2015, but the trouble is you're losing money in 2015, and the money going out has doubled as well. So the wage bill has doubled, the transfer costs have quadrupled, and things of that nature. So clearly there'd been investment in the talent, and football's a talent industry. And it didn't quite work out in 2019. But I did feel that you were in a similar position to Brighton in 2016, whereby we'd missed out on promotion, we got into the playoffs, and the manager and the owner had said to the squad, give us one more year, and if you don't go up next year, you can go wherever you want. We will continue to invest in the squad, and on the back of that, you were deservedly promoted as champions in 2020. We should have been champions in 2017, except we got promoted with 3 games to go, and everybody went out on the lash for about a fortnight, and we got 1 point from our final 3 games, so allowing Newcastle to get the championship. As a strategy, as a financial strategy, I think you've got to give Radrizzani some credit. He was prepared to make losses. He was prepared to underwrite those losses, and he clearly had a strategic aim in the medium term of getting Leeds to the Premier League. And that was going to cost money, and it has cost a lot of money, but it has been achieved.
Okay, so that was a fantastic interview. In fact, that was the price of Leeds United. So thank you very much, Mr. Kieran Maguire, for coming on. And would you like to spruik some of your wares? You've got a book, you've got a course. People could sign up to get a degree from you.
I teach at the University of Liverpool. I teach on the football MBA course. And before people say, yes, that is a fucking subject, I teach people from all over the world who come on the course who want to have a career within the football industry. It's not a cheap course. It's something to take a lot of consideration before you ever proceed in that. I teach for the League Managers Association. I teach football agents. Because I'm a football fan just like you guys. I go there to go down the pub with my mates, take the piss out of each other, moan for 90 minutes of football, and then go back to the pub and moan some more. And the football's a great day out, ruined by 90 minutes of football. Yeah, that's what it's like for people. I think, like all of us, who've spent majority of the last few years with clubs that haven't quite delivered necessarily what we wanted. I've written a book called The Price of Football. I've got. If one of you guys wants a copy, I'll send one up to you. And I run a podcast called The Price of Football with he used to be the Match of the Day 2 presenter, roving reporter Kevin Day. He's a stand-up comedian. He writes A League of Your Own and Have I Got News for You. He writes all the scripts for those. He's a very funny guy. So for some reason...
There are a few stand-up comedians on Match of the Day too.
And Amazon Sport.
And he's been an absolute delight for work. And for some reason, the football industry listens to that show, so which is slightly awkward because we just take the piss out of each other. But we then realise that when we now start getting phone calls from the Premier League, from individual clubs querying things that we've said. So, but we always stand by what we say. We do research content. We are looking forward to the day when the show is no longer required. But unfortunately, in an age when you've got Steve Dale at Bury, when you've got what's happened at Charlton, when you've got lots of weird stuff taking place, such as Tom Ince's mum being paid $700,000 a year to be an academy scout to help Derby satisfy financial fair play.
Oh, Derby, of course.
Derby, who are you again another of your big buddies. Yeah. It's that's the type of stuff we've been trying to dig out. That's been fun. I mean, I'm just a teacher. I'm having a whale of a time doing this. It's compared to regular teaching, I've got a really, really easy gig. You try walking in to a class on a Monday morning and say, oh, well, Apple have just announced their new results and let's look at their pension. And so I walk in and say, fucking hell, guys, have you seen how much money Manchester United owe for our transfer? A couple of years ago, Manchester United owed £260 million in outstanding instalments in transfer fees. You go in to Liverpool and you tell them that, and yeah, my
Yeah,
job's
pretty
very,
much,
very
yeah.
easy.
How you get on with your Premier League stickers? By the way?
Well, I've got my first swap today. So if
Nice.
anybody needs a spare Joe Willock, I've got one here.
Does anyone need a spare Joe Willock? More to the point, does anyone need a spare Kiko Casilla?
He's shiny.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for coming on, Kieran.
Thank you, guys. I really
cheers.
enjoyed it, and good luck for the rest of the season. Saturday, of course, we probably won't be talking to each other.
Right, there we go. Kieran Maguire. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Plagued with technical difficulties in the background, but nobody needs to know about that.
No. And I probably sound like a Dalek on this podcast. Hope you enjoyed that.
I won't buy you see if Alex is dressed as a Dalek. Got to go onto YouTube to find out.
Can we break into the top six? Kieran, what are your thoughts, Kieran?
Just reading his last week's article, Steve Evans is not fit to sniff Bielsa's bicycle seat, is what it spells out. Amazing.
I fucking love that.
Yeah.
I loved him when he came out with that.
Yeah, because you wouldn't expect a university lecturer to have that level of bants. And I think that's he's gone up like 20 points in my estimation. It was already quite high. So
It's starting paragraphs
economics.
with Ezjan Alioski rather than just calling him like Gianni or something, just to fit that in there. It's genius.
brilliant.
Bellissimo.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the price of Leeds United. I was going to ask him if 20 was plenty and about PPV, but we just didn't have enough time.
No.
You can't keep a man away from his dinner.
No, not his mini eggs.
Not as many eggs, no.
I wanted to ask him how many mini eggs we'd need to get Kiko Casilla on his contract. Right? If you want to express the money in mini eggs.
We sent pens to Ken and socks to Sean. Let's send many eggs to Kiko.
Okay, well, we hope you've learnt something about the price of Leeds United. Do we have anything else to say about that? I don't think so. Can we all piss off now and eat some dinner?
Yeah, I don't think we could afford Leeds United basically. So yeah.
Almost 300 million. That's pretty good.
Do you remember that Leeds Fans United where we're going to buy the club? Don't think we can do that now. There's not enough community shares in the fucking world.
But you can get 90% of your investment back.
Yeah, I applied for that last year and I'm still waiting. I will let you know when it comes. We'll probably moved on to some universal currency like the euro. But no,
Never.
It wasn't an O'Rourke, was it, who set this whole thing up? You have to be careful about that sort of thing.
Ryman or sock? Holy shit. I just nicked my beers, for fuck's sake.
Oh, sorry, did I say you can get 90%? No, I meant 10%. You can get... But I only gave a tenner. Oh, yeah. Okay, so at the end of that, you still can't get a ticket, and even if you could, you wouldn't be able to afford it. That was the price of Leeds United. So, if you like that, subscribe to us and comment and do all that stuff. Why not?
Well, actually, more accurate, if you enjoyed that, go and subscribe to his podcast because you'll get more of that. You won't get much more of that here.
No. We've been deceptively serious on this pod, and you'll be unpleasantly surprised if you watch any of our other content. So thank you very much for joining us, dear watcher or dear listener. And my name was Adonis. You can catch me at the Adelites on Twitter, and you can catch Ross Bell at RossBell1984, our man on the post. Very goodbye from him.
Bye. You threw me. I normally do that bit myself.
If you go onto Twitter and you type in @RiotBadger, you'll find some beautiful canvases, which you must immediately buy. Look into the eyes. Look into the eyes. Don't look around the eyes. Look into the eyes. You're under. Very good bye from Alex.
I've actually changed my @it's to @wear a mask, you selfish bastards.
Yeah. @get the fucking vaccine.
Yeah.
That was your podcast. Goodbye.
Yeah.
It's your podcast whether you fucking like it or not. If you don't finish it, you can't have your dessert, you pricks.
That was podcast deal voucher 1. Now pay your podcast tax and fuck off.
man.
Most of our stats come from LUFC Stats or LUFC Data on Twitter. You should probably give them a follow as they're more interesting than us. A very special thanks to Adam Warner, Barney Stewart, Cookie Ewan and Howard Metcalf, Josh Pearson, Laura, Leon and Rob, The Light Show and all our family and friends.
So many